Many of you don't know the legacies of the outgoing Edo State governor, talking about Governor Godwin Obaseki. The only thing I used to know as a legacy established by the Edo State governor is bad roads. In fact, when you are competing for bad roads in Nigeria, nobody should bother to drag it with Godwin Obaseki. He is a fantastic producer of bad roads. It is, if you want to contradict me, I will make myself available. Let's go to Edo State and do a survey. You understand? However, the governor is out to reel out his legacies, his achievements, while serving Edo State as governor for 8 good years.
Governor Godwin Obaseki is gradually winding down on his second term as chief executive of Edo State. The governor joins us now to reflect on his tenure in office, achievements and legacies. Good day and welcome to Newsday, Your Excellency.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you for being here. Well, Governor, let's go.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's go straight into it. We do know that your administration is very popular for its transformative reforms, especially in public service. So I'd like to start with asking you what moved you to prioritize civil service reforms and what were the key challenges that you faced in implementing them?
Thank you thank you. I'm really glad to be with you, Arise. I believe this is the first interview I'm having with you.
Well, finally, we're able to catch you towards the end of your tenure.
Because I've been very busy building. I believe now is the time to talk. When I was walking, I couldn't say much. That I wanted the evidence to show, and I wanted to evidence whatever talk I was going to have with you. You see, one of the challenges of our country today is the inability of government to drive through its policies. So it's one thing for government to say, to come up with policies, to say they will do this or they will do that. But it's another to have the structure and the institutions to make those things happen. And the civil service or the public service is that institution of government that has responsibility not only for policy, having done its analysis, but also to make it happen, to execute on policies. So you keep hearing, oh yes, great policies, but poor execution, because we haven't paid enough attention to those people who are supposed to drive through government policies. So for instance, you say, education is my priority. I want to get the children of a particular area or country educated. This is how I want to measure the quality of education I intend to pass on. Then you go back to go back and say, okay, who is going to do what? Who is responsible? What are our priorities? Who is supposed to, ensure that things are done and there's a monitoring process? The bureaucracy is supposed to do that. So what we've done in Edo in the last 8 years is to focus on the civil and public service, which is the engine of government, and say, look, what are the challenges? What are the issues you have? First, it's motivation, just respecting them, making them feel relevant, making them feel important. It's not only about money. It's also about a sense of belonging. Second is infrastructure. You don't expect them to use their bare hands. The environment in which they work, aligns with how you even think about them. So if you go to Edo today, one of the things we've done is to ensure that we've improved the work environment, the infrastructure of our workforce. Thirdly, the tools for them to work. Today in the digital world, you can't be using papers. You can't be, your files can't be missing. With technology, there's just so much efficiency and transparency which you can bring into play in managing the way institutions work. That's what happens in many private sector institutions. I know bank managing directors who approve billion naira credits on their phone. They don't have to wait for all the bundles of paperwork as it used to be in the past. There's really no reason why government cannot and should not operate that way. And that's what we've done in Edo. And then lastly, is that certainty, certainty that after they have worked, they will be compensated while they're working. And after they have worked, they're not just going to be trashed. Their pensions, their gratuities, their obligations should be paid to them. So these are some of the key planks of the reform we've undertaken in the state. And let me just add also, while they are in service, you've got to continue to upgrade their knowledge. You've got to continue to train them. You've got to continue to make sure that whatever they are doing is relevant. And finally, you must have a monitoring and evaluation system to make sure that their policies have the effects they have, and it's actually introducing the changes that you intended when you set up the policies in the first place. So in a nutshell, that's what we've tried to do in Edo in the last 8 years. First, show more respect, attention to our public servants, improve their work environment, create a lot more certainty for them in the workplace, train them better, pay them better, and when they finish work, ensure that they're not forgotten.
Well, we sure do hope that that continues to be the focus for Edo State. Even though you are on the way out, we hope it continues that way. But let's speak more about digitalization. As you said a little bit earlier when you were discussing, Edo State seems to be Nigeria's most digitalized state, particularly in the area of e-governance, which the World Bank expects African states to start to adopt. Now, how has this digital transformation enhanced governance within the state, the way you see it? And how do you see this evolving in the coming years, even as you step away?
First, digitization encourages more efficiency because unlike in the past when you use analog records, analog storage systems, it's difficult to get the information you want, the data you want. Take for instance, you have an interaction with a government agency. You either send a letter or make a call, and somebody is supposed to receive the letter and information and respond to you respond to you. It was not uncommon in the past that you write to government or government institutions about one issue and another, and most times you don't get any response because you can't even track who received the letter and what actions were taken on your complaints or your requests. Today, with digitization, when you write a letter or send a request to government, it's recorded, it's stored. Even if you don't send it electronically, it's converted to an electronic format. It's stamped, it's received. I know the date that request came in. And we can follow through. We have what we call a 48-hour response time. Within 48 hours, whoever that request has gotten to must turn around and do something about the request. Even if you don't have the answer, but you escalate it, you don't keep it. You don't just sit on it. And so unlike in the past where files get missing, you don't know what has happened to any requests, any payments. Today, in the comfort of my office or the office of any permanent secretary or any director, you can tell what has happened to every request of policy or issue in government. And therefore, the turnaround time to respond to issues in government, to respond to citizens' requests is quite shortened, and that has improved services for our citizens. So whether it's in the area of health, whether it's in the area of land management, whatever it is, we have records of everything you've done, and we know who has responsibility or who has taken what action or not taken what action, and we know how to follow through. One area that I'm truly proud of that we have really excelled. We've digitized every aspect of government. But one area is land administration. such that I can tell when you apply for your CFO, and can also tell who has sat on your application or the processes beyond the required time limit, such that today in Edo State, if you apply for your certificate of occupancy, within 60 days, you will get your certificate of occupancy if you meet all the requests. But within a month, you know whether we have received all the information that will enable us issue that certificate of occupancy and all. So what that translates to is speed, efficiency, and also transparency in the way government does its business.
All right, then. Thank you so much for that. But let's talk about what your administration was able to do in terms of developing about 1,300 kilometers of road network, which a lot would describe as a significant infrastructure achievement in itself. And given the persistent infrastructure challenges that are faced by states nationwide, what would you say are the core principles of Edo's approach that could serve as a model for other states?
Well, in terms of infrastructure, we've looked at infrastructure very broadly. What infrastructure? Everybody talks about the roads. But another infrastructure, which is very important for development today, is fiber optic infrastructure. And I must say that in Edo, over the last 5 years, we've built over 2,500 kilometers of fiber network across the state, so that every local government is linked. It's the same approach we have used in building roads. Before I came into office, we had a World Bank program called C4, which emphasized a lot of public works and public participation in construction of roads. So we after the World Bank funding for that project, we continued in Edo State. And what that meant was that we involved a lot of local contractors and local participation in the way we design and construct our roads. Edo State, because of its location in the country, has a lot of federal roads connecting our state. Because you cannot go from Lagos to any part of the east or to the south or the north without going through Edo. So all of that network of roads are federal. And that's what most people see. They don't see what we have done internally within Edo State, how we've connected our cities and, and within our cities, our intra-state roads and our intercity roads. One of the big issues with road construction is water and rain. I mean, water from rain. We are in the rainforest, and we have a fairly long rainy spell. So it's important that if you're going to build road infrastructure that will last, you must take drainage into consideration. Unfortunately, in early times, that was not the emphasis because, once rain fell, there was the water runoffs went into open spaces. But most of the open spaces have been built up. So the waters that could have run off into open spaces now stay on the road. So you must look for a way to direct that water out. So what we did in terms of our design is emphasize drainage such that the roads can last. And we also realized that if you are constructing roads within cities, usually distances are not long. There are very few roads within a city that will be longer than a kilometer or two. And once you have that, what we've done is to just do the design. Yes, you focus on the main arteries, but just building the main arterial roads are not enough. You've got to look at the entire environment and see how you can build all the side and subsidiary roads that will take water and into the main arterial roads into a drainage system. So those, in a nutshell, are the things we've done in Edo. And in the last 8 years, we built almost 800 kilometers of such internal roads within the state. The other thing we've done is, rather than lament about federal government not fixing its own roads, where we can, we've helped with remedial work, but we are also looking at alternatives interstate roads linking our cities. So if I'm going to Edo North, for instance, I don't have to wait to use only the Benin-Auchi road, which is owned by the federal government. We've designed other, subsidiary roads that can take us through our towns to the north without necessarily depending on those federal roads. And we keep negotiating with the federal government to improve, to work on their own road networks. And I hope that with time, some of the initiatives that have been introduced will get implemented. For instance, the Benin-Asaba Expressway has been concessioned. It was concessioned over 2 years ago. The state government and the Delta state government decided to participate in the concession, and we're hoping that the federal government will now make a decision after 2 years to allow the concessionaires begin work on that road.
Well said. Let's move on from the infrastructure and talk about security, another hot button topic within the nation. Some of the security initiatives that you introduced in Edo State during your tenure include the Edo State Security Network. It's actually been given a bit of praise. So how do you maintain a balance between the traditional security forces and other community-based solutions, such as vigilante groups and the likes, in order to make sure that there is peace and security within the state?
Also police in the past who thought through the whole issue of community policing. And fortunately, we worked with them closely and we're able to come out with models that have worked. So what we've done in Edo is to create layers, security layers. First, within the communities. In most communities, they had some arrangement to secure their communities. It either had to do with young people, young men who took time out to mount guard, or they had people pointers who gave information as to who came into the community or went out of the community. So we had those in very many communities. And don't forget, the Benin Empire was very well organized, and most of those institutions, those traditional institutions, still exist today. The Nigerian police force also came up with its community policing arrangements, where we worked with the police to create what you called a community policing structure, where you had constabularies, constables that were recruited, trained by the police, and were responsible for providing some form of security within their political wards. And then you had the state police system with its divisions, with its areas, and the state command. So that's the policing architecture that we had in Edo State. And what we tried to do was integrate all of them. So we cascaded security from the state level to the local governments, working with the DPOs, to the wards, with the constabulary arrangements, and then to the communities where they had the vigilantes. So with that system, we were able to tell what was going on in every community in the state. Today, we have about 12,000 of such participants, either at the community level or at the ward level or at the local government level. And we've tried to integrate them. As we invested in the police training school in Ogida Barracks, Benin, and that facility trains everybody. So our vigilantes on a regular basis come up to the school and are trained. The curriculum was put together for them by the police, the DSS, and the military. And the process of training also assists us to document them, and where they carry arms, we also document the type of arms they carry. The last thing is we've also provided a communication, system for them, which allows them pass on information on incidents on a daily basis up to the state level. And finally, we have a security governance structure with the State Security Council, which analyzes every incident every month. So we can tell you, from our records, how many kidnapping cases we've had and where they occurred, how many rape incidents, incidents related to cultism, drugs, and so forth and so on. With that data, we're able to undertake analysis and come up with fairly reasonable responses in dealing with some of these incidents. And finally, within Benin City, we've installed cameras, surveillance cameras within the city, and we're doing so across most parts of the state, such that we now have what we call a 3C center, a command and control center with cameras and with representatives of all the security agencies who have the responsibility to respond to any incident in the state. And we have the 739 and the 112 dials or telephone numbers through which citizens can call in when they have an emergency and they get help.
Thank you so much for that, Governor Obaseki. Well, I'd like to touch on, a sector which is sometimes overlooked, and I'm talking about the creative sector. But in regards to what you've set up, I'm talking about the Victor Uwaifo Creative Hub that you said signals a commitment, Edo State's commitment to the creative industry. I want to ask how significant this sector is to the state's future economy, and what further support should creatives, expect from the Edo State government?
As you know, one of the biggest exports in Nigeria today is Nollywood, and also our music industry. You find great Nigerian artists who are, doing great things in the creative area across the world, globally. And we are so proud in Edo that we have people like Rema, we have people like Charlie Poppy, and who've served as an inspiration to a lot of younger ones in the music area. But also, they're you can finally find a set in any production, any movie production in Nigeria today that you don't have one or two Edo people involved in. So that tells you that the creative spirits, the creative talent in Edo is quite prolific and quite deep. And this has been part of us. Edo people have always been creatives, have always been in the creative industry through the centuries. It's in their blood. But what hasn't happened is we've not taken deliberate steps to provide that nurturing, that training, and that honing in skills for them at home. So most of them have had to travel to go outside to express themselves. But what we've done over the last 8 years is identifying that these talents exist. Identifying that, knowing that this is big money and big business. But what should government be doing to support the creatives? Artists are very interesting people. They're very, they have a very unique way of thinking and seeing the world. It's not their business to provide electricity infrastructure. It's not their business to provide fiber optic connection. It's not their, they don't have money most of the time. And so for us as a government, understanding this, what we then decided to do was to create the environment for them to come and undertake their creative endeavors. That's what led us to establishing a soundstage, the Victor Uwaifo Creative Hub, which is essentially a soundstage and a platform where people could have their sets and do their productions. And then also invested in equipment that they ordinarily would not be able to put, uh, raise the money to own themselves. So we have, audio studios, we have a sound studios, we have a Dolby, a Dolby Atmos sound studio. So for people or artists to come in and finish their works and refine what are they doing. But more significantly, what we did was partner with production companies, to develop the human capacity. Rock Studios has been very, very helpful. MultiChoice, I'm sorry I'm mentioning names, but these are people who have, worked with us and invested in capacity building, where we've trained dozens of sound engineers, cinematographers, and as a government, we help and assist in reducing their cost of accommodation, in providing the logistics for them to move equipment to their different locations, where they're shooting, and whatever assistance we can give, we've done. And today, I believe that Edo State, ranks top 5 or top, if not top 3, in terms of locations where directors and producers want to go and, have their productions. So, so far, so good. An industry that didn't exist 5 years ago in Edo has thrived, and I believe that because of the amount of jobs it has created, the amount of opportunities, the excitement, the life that it's brought into the city, I believe and I hope that it will be sustained. And if it's not sustained, those who've enjoyed what we've done will clamor for it.
Well, I'm sure the original Benin Boys and the other musicians and artists in Edo State, thank you. And I heard you mention Shali Poppy and Rema. So, Governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, it was a pleasure having you here.
Our politicians are very funny. Indeed, our politicians are funny people. What our politicians can do, eyes have not seen it, ears have not heard it, nor has it entered into the heart of men. They are magicians. They can perform wonders.